This is a little bit different than what I normally do. I'm just going to talk about my Lightbox experience because a lot of people ask me, it's like, hey, I heard you went to Lightbox. What was your experience? And I just don't want to keep retelling the same story. Got it? Got it. What is Lightbox Expo? So, according to Google, Lightbox Expo, LBX for short, is the ultimate gathering of artists who work in the entertainment industry, bringing your favorite films, animations, games, TV shows, and illustrations to life. Since Lightbox is in Pasadena, California, that's a long distance from where I'm from. And fortunately, me and two other friends were like, hey, let's carpool. So I woke up at 9 in the morning, drove about an hour and a half to drive to a friend's house, editing me here, breaking the fourth wall for a little bit because I forgot to explain some things. There's 7 people in total. So there is me, there's friend I, there's friend H, there's friend A, there's friend D, friend L, and finally friend Z. So if you hear me say friend insert letter here, you know who I'm talking about. So I get there, friend I and friend H are waiting for me and we're like, hey, let's go. So we start moving and we drove about 6 to 7 hours all the way to the Airbnb that we rented out with some other friends. So we get in, we crash, and we just kind of pass out, and Lightbox just started the next morning. So day 1 of Lightbox, it starts at noon, so 12 p.m. in the afternoon. So the first panel of the day, which I wanted to go to, was called The Art of Pitching, right? And I'm like, okay, this is a really important one. I need to go to it. I already know how to pitch, but I'm not great at it. And of course we missed a panel because I didn't know where I was going. So the 2 p.m. panel that I went to was Creature Designers of Film and TV. The panelists, there's like five guys, cool. And so they're all up talking about their experiences, what they've made, blah, blah, blah. And it was crazy because they're just all super casual about it. So there was one guy who was talking about, he's like, hey, I actually made the original dinosaurs for the original Jurassic Park. And we're just sitting there, we're like, oh, this guy's crazy. And he's like, yeah, so I also made designs for Rango, all of the character designs for Rango. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh my God. These guys are crazy. I love Rango, and I like the original Jurassic Park. So the whole panel ends, and they're sitting here like, hey, if you find us throughout the convention, don't be afraid to come up and talk to us, and we'll gladly talk. And we'll see you guys later. So then I look at my schedule, and I see that the next panel is at 3:30. So I run over to the Civic Auditorium, and coincidentally, I run into friend I, and I'm sitting here, right? This is the panel of all time. So we grab a seat, we're sitting down, and friend I doesn't know what he got himself into. He's sitting here, he's like, so what, like, why do you want to go to this one in particular? So I turn to him and I'm like, oh, this is my childhood hero. He made my favorite show. And by the way, this is the guy that made El Tigre, one of my favorite shows, and The Book of Life, one of my favorite movies. So he's just up there casually talking, and I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's real. He exists. He's real. And so he's giving us his whole life story, what to do, what not to do, all of his failed pilots. And coincidentally, the name of the panel is All These Failed Pilots and Movies Made Me Stronger. So day 2, and we run into probably like the first problem of Lightbox, right? Some of your panels that you want to go to, they all stack and overlap within time, right? And mind you, each panel is an hour long. I was sitting here and I'm like, okay, we are already in the building for what it's like to work in games. So I'm gonna go and grab my ticket for that one. So I met some people, got some Instagrams and business cards, and I get my ticket for what it's like to work in games. So I'm waiting in line talking to this girl, and coincidentally that day I was wearing a Pokemon flannel, and she was like, oh, do you like Pokemon? And I'm like, yeah, I think Pokemon's pretty cool. I have an addiction to Pokemon. And the panel starts, editing me here from the future. So you see this entire part, you can't I think you can see it. I have my mouse and I'm circling around it. So this entire part was just me talking to a professional in the industry. And we're just gonna keep that between me and him. And that's it. So, sorry. Back to the video. And so he gave me his email and he's like, send a picture of yourself and send me some of your works and we can talk. And that's it. And he left. After that, I immediately found the nearest bathroom and just kind of like put my head in the toilet. I felt like I was gonna vomit because I'm like, oh my God, this is not real. Is this real? Day number 3. The next panel is Artists on YouTube, How to Thrive. So I'm sitting in front of the Civic Auditorium and coincidentally, friend D, friend I, and friend Z all show up and they're like, hey, are you also going to the Artists on YouTube panel? And I'm like, yes, sirs, let's go. So we all go in, we all get pretty good seats and we're all waiting, right? So the panelists all show up and coincidentally there was a host. So the host is talking, he's a cool guy. He's introducing the panelists and you hear something from the crowd. They're like, something, these nuts. And everyone turns and looks at the guy who said that. And we're like, okay, maybe it's just a one-time thing. Maybe this guy was just trying to make a funny joke and it didn't land. You know, it's fine. He kept doing it. He was a heckler. We had a heckler in the crowd. And at that panel, there was one girl who was a panelist, right? Everyone else is a dude. There's one girl who's the panelist. And she was like, hi, I'm insert name here. And I do this on YouTube and I really enjoy the process, blah, 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 right? So everyone's clapping for her. And the dude, the heckler, guys, don't you think she's hot? I think she's kind of hot. And like, I don't know. It's like, yeah, she's pretty.
It's just my type is men.
But do you get to say that? Do you get to say that? You do not get to say, you can keep that to yourself. And everyone turns and looks at him and is like, bro, shut up. And security shows up and drags him out the building. And we're like, oh my God, thank you. Shout out to Lightbox security. Thank you guys for doing your job. You're the best. You guys deserve more praise and appreciation, but shout out to you guys. And the rest of that panel was really good. It was really informative. There's a guy who did murals, which was really cool. And I don't know, it was just good. It was a good refresher on the whole YouTube thing, you know? Don't look at my YouTube, it's really bad. So the final panel of Lightbox that I went to, it was called My Process of Creature Design and Characters for Films. And you're like, okay, more creature design. That's how you started it. This is how we're gonna end it. So I get in there, we sit down, and this guy just starts talking. He's like, all right, guys, my name is insert name here. I have made some creatures for House of Dragons, which, don't quote me if I'm wrong, I believe is Game of Thrones. I don't know anything about Game of Thrones yet. And he made creature designs for Avatar 2 Way of the Water, which was sick. And so everyone's applauding him. Everyone's like clapping for him. It's like, everyone's like, hey, thank you for making the last panel at Lightbox super friendly, super calming. And this guy is like, well, actually, don't thank me. I want to thank all of you. And we're all clapping. We're like, dude, this is how you end Lightbox. So we all leave, and the group, we all meet up at the front of Lightbox, and they just start tearing stuff down. Everyone's leaving, and it was very cinematic. I took a little picture of the front of the convention center. I should have took more, but I just didn't. And we all meet up. We're like, hey, let's go out and grab some food and let's all sleep because we got to clean up the Airbnb for tomorrow. And that's what we did. So some things afterwards, it's like post discussion, right? A lot of people heard of Lightbox, but haven't gone. And I have a few questions that I myself was asking myself the entire trip. So the first one is, was it worth the money? I would say yes. I bought a 3-day pass, and so did everyone else in the group. And it was definitely worth how much we paid for the Airbnb and the 3-day pass, because we went to like everything. you got to make your money's worth with what you paid. So I would say it was worth the money. Question number 2. Would I go again? Yeah, I plan on it. I plan on paying again, hopefully, and just being able to go again, see what happens on the second time. Because a lot of people that were there, it was not their first Lightbox. For me, it was my first ever convention and Lightbox. So it was all brand new to me. And the third question is, let's see, what would you recommend doing if it's your first time going? So for me, my thought process was be yourself, but be willing to talk to others, right? You have to go out there, you have to communicate with others. You have to sell yourself. You have to talk about, hey, this is what I do, and I do cool stuff, and I know you do cool stuff, and I want to be able to work with you in the future. Now, in the way future, we got to talk, we have to communicate, because Lightbox was a big wake-up call for me to make connections, potentially see what's going on, and make a name for myself. And I feel like that's what I accomplished. And personally, I was really surprised because, you know, I'm not an artist yet, at least. I don't know. I'm a writer. So if you're an artist interested in animation, visual effects, modeling, illustration, or even screenwriting like myself, and you're serious about what you do and what you want to do, I would say Lightbox is worth going to, and I'll gladly go to it again.